everyone. Today we're continuing our Everything Grows series. Just a reminder, in this video series you will learn how to start and take care of your very own garden in 8 weeks. That's 8 videos, 1 video per week, 8 minutes per video. We'll be covering everything you need to know about having a garden, garden basics, starting seeds, pest control. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about what we'll be exploring today in week 5. Today we are finally going to map out our gardens. This will be a great tool when we start planting our vegetables. We'll also determine what supplies and tools we need to be successful in taking care of our gardens. In between our activities, we'll have a chance to get outside and maybe even get a visit from a familiar friend. Let's take some time to work on a writing activity. In order to make our garden map, we need to determine whether we'll be planting in a container garden or in an in-ground garden. Let's take a look back at some of our notes throughout the past 4 weeks to help us decide. Taking a look back at your notes, answer these 2 questions in your garden notebook. Will you be able to plant a container garden or an in-ground garden? Where will your garden be located? Take 20 minutes to go back through your notebooks and determine your answers to these questions. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you were able to find some great information in your notebooks. In order to make an accurate map of our gardens, we need to know a few different things: what we are going to grow, and how we're going to grow it. For this video, we're going to focus on having an in-ground garden that has 5 vegetables in it. My 5 vegetables will be ones that I have researched and know for sure that they will grow well in Alaska. Also ones I love to eat. My list of vegetables is broccoli, spinach, potatoes, carrots, and cabbage. Now that we know what vegetables we're going to grow, we need to figure out how big of a garden we need. In order to determine how big of a garden we need for our vegetables, we're going to work on some math word problems. Turn to a new page in your garden notebook so we can get started. To start off our garden mapping, we need to figure out what shape will be best. We need a shape that has straight sides so we can plant our vegetables in a straight line. We also need a shape that has all the sides the same length to make it easy for measuring and planting. Is there a shape like that? Write down what you think that shape is. If you wrote down square, you are absolutely right. Making our garden a square will make it very easy for us to plant our vegetables in straight lines as well as maintain them. Clyde, why are you always interrupting us? We're trying to stay focused. For our next math problem, I want you to draw a square in your garden notebook that takes up the whole page, just like this. This is going to represent our garden. If we have 5 different vegetables to plant, how many beds does our square garden need to have? But wait, what exactly is a bed? A bed is a row where we plant our vegetables, like these. Draw how many beds you think our garden should have in the square in your notebook. If you drew 5 beds, you are correct. We're going to need 5 beds in our garden so each type of vegetable has its own row and we don't get confused about what vegetable is where. It's hard to tell the difference in vegetables when they first start growing because all you can see are green sprouts. Go ahead and write the names of your vegetables in the rows you just created. For the next problem, go ahead and turn to a new page and draw a new square. If we're planting in beds, how will we get to the plants in the middle of the garden square? Will we need space to get them? We definitely will. We don't want to be stepping on other plants trying to get to the middle. That means we'll have to have some new rows that are called walkways. A walkway is a road that gives us walking space to get to plants, like these. We are going to have 1 walkway between each bed. If we need that, how many walkways do we need in our garden? In your new square, draw your 5 beds and how many walkways you think we're going to need in the garden. If you drew 4 walkways, you were right. We only need 4 walkways because our outside vegetable beds will be reachable. Our next math question involves figuring out how much space to give our plants to grow. Just like animals need space to thrive, plants need space to thrive. Plants start off small, but as they grow, they need the room to grow roots, spread their leaves, and grow tall. If plants are too close together, they may compete for resources like sunlight, nutrients in soil, and water. So let's determine how far each bed should be apart from the next. Wait, don't we already have a space in between each vegetable bed? That's right, we have walkways. So let's determine how big our walkways should be. We're going to need space that's big enough to walk through and big enough to do gardening tasks like weeding, watering, inspecting for pests, and harvesting. A good space for walking is 2 feet. So, if each walkway is 2 feet wide and we have 4 total walkways, how wide are all our walkways put together? Use the extra space in your notebook to figure it out. So each walkway is 2 feet wide. We're going to multiply that by our 4 walkways and get our answer, 8 feet wide. If each of our walkways is 2 feet wide, should we make each of our beds the same width? Yes, I think that's a great idea. If each bed is 2 feet wide and we have 5 total beds, how wide are all our beds together? Use the extra space in your notebook to figure it out. Each bed is 2 feet wide. We'll multiply that by 5 beds and get our total, which is 10 feet wide. If we add the width of all the walkways and the width of all the beds, we'll get the total width of our garden. 8 feet plus 10 feet, 18 feet. That means each side of our square garden is 18 feet. If you have less space in your yard for your garden, we can have some smaller options. We could have a square that's 9 feet wide with the same number of beds and walkways, which means each bed is 1 foot wide and each walkway is 1 foot wide. Congratulations! You've just made your very own garden map. Today's outside activity is superhero powers. Pretend you have some really cool physical superhero powers. Jump as high as you can, run as fast as you can, be the best superhero you can be. Make sure you pause the video and come back when you are done. Ready, set, go. Whew, welcome back guys. I'm pretty sure I jumped as high as the moon. To determine what supplies and tools we're going to need for our garden, it's game time. In your materials list for this week's lesson, there's a matching game printout. Work with a parent to print out the match sheets and cut them out to create 14 cards. The cards contain 7 different tools and supplies you will need for starting and maintaining your garden. Take 30 minutes to set up and play your matching game. As you make matches, look at the cards and think about why that specific tool would be helpful in starting and maintaining your garden. Write down your ideas in your garden notebook. Make sure to pause the video and come back when you have solved all the matches and made all of your notes. Welcome back everyone. Let's review those matches. We definitely can't grow any plants without seeds. Seed trays are helpful when we first start our seeds. They make it super easy to transplant the seedlings into the ground. A watering can makes it easy for us to get water from our watering source into our gardens. You don't always have to use gardening gloves, but they're sometimes helpful if you don't want to get your hands super dirty or you're doing something that might hurt your hands. Small hand tools like these are great for doing small things in the garden like digging holes and digging up weeds. Like we talked about in previous weeks, soil is super important for our plants because it's packed full of nutrients that they need to grow. A super helpful tool in figuring out which plants are which is vegetable markers. You can also make your own vegetable markers or buy some. Next week we'll be starting our vegetable seeds. To get ready for next week, work with your parent to shop and gather the supplies you will need to start your seeds. You will need 1 packet of seeds for each of your 5 vegetables. That's 5 packets of seeds. You will also need 1 seed tray for each vegetable, so that's 5 seed trays. You also need 1 large bag of soil.